Okay, here's where we're at with the Thunderchild. I've primer coated her. This is going to be the base color for some of the panel lines, or the Aztecing is they would put it on the Enterprise D. Here's the directions over here. The directions call for an overall light blue gray color scheme. I'm not going to do that. This ship is from the same time period as Enterprise E, so I got out my Enterprise E, looked at the color calls. I'm following them. Enterprise E, the base color is basically white with a touch of gray. I'm probably going to take some flat white paint, add a little bit of gray to it to give it a slightly gray cast, and paint it. But before I do that, I am following this somewhat. All the light gray on this, I'm going to leave this base color that I have on the Thunderchild. And then there are some variations, slightly darker grays and some flat blacks, and I will go ahead and paint those accordingly. Reference photos I have also show some light blue on the model, but those are covered in the decals, so I'm not going to worry about painting that up. The decals do have some light blue on it. Only thing I may do with blue paint is this ridge right here is shown as being a light blue, duckade blue to sky blue. I'll probably go ahead and paint that because that seems to be a common color scheme on a lot of the Federation ships. As for all the bubbles and voids, I have them all taken care of now. Along here, it's still a teeny bit rough, but not too bad overall. If you saw that thing when I pulled it out of the box, it doesn't even look the same. I can see one spot that I need to do a little bit of sanding on before I hit it with the paint. Another spot that gave me trouble are around these bumps on the warp nacelles. One of them's still a little rough, and I'm going to get some fine sandpaper and sand that down. Other than that, everything else is pretty done. I'm about to start taping this thing. Okay, I'm working on masking for painting the Thunderchild. I started off with blue tape. Blue tape, pretty thick stuff. My typical masking style is to put the tape down, burnish it down with a toothpick or my thumbnail so it's nice and tight fitting on the surface of the model. Then I take a very sharp, fresh blade on my hobby knife and I cut around the outside edges. This thing's resin. It is not styrene. Resin is softer than styrene. And the details aren't quite as sharp as they would be on styrene. That method wasn't working. I tried it. I didn't actually cut into the tape, mainly because I couldn't see these details right here. Let me zoom in a little bit here so we can see some of these details I am talking about. We'll bring her up. Okay. These ridges right in here, I couldn't find them on the tape. Okay. Not to mention some of these details back here, those are pretty thin lines between there. This tape wasn't going to work. So what I decided to try to do was paint it on using a masking fluid. I've got 2 or 3 different masking fluids. One of the guys at Scale Model Addict told me that this was the stuff he used. I've tried it. I like it better than the other masking fluids I have too. He was right. That's good stuff. Problem I was having with that was it was drying as I was painting it on. That's not a bad thing, but when I'd go to fill in the big areas around in here, what was happening was pulling it up off the outer edges. That doesn't work because then I get unsure of where there's masking fluid and where there isn't. Then I started looking around in my tools, found frisket film. Basically, you cut this stuff out, you peel it off, you put it down, you trim it with the knife, and you're done with it. I've been putting the frisket film, let me zoom back in, on this side over here. You can see it in the reflections in the light where I've put the frisket film and where I haven't. It seems to be going down pretty well. It doesn't hold quite as tightly as the tape would, so I'm not too upset over that one. It did pull up a little bit of my primer coat in a few spots, but that's okay. The spots it's pulling it up are not the spots where I want to block the paint. They're where fresh paint's going to go down. So I'm going to go over a little of this with some sandpaper. But as of right now, I'm liking the frisket film compared to other methods I've used for masking. We'll see how well it works when I finally get the coat of paint down on this. It's taken me quite a while. There's a lot of masking to do on this model. Another quick update. I have spent a good 8 hours taping on this thing, and I'd say I'm about halfway done. Frisket film has its pluses and its minuses. A plus is you put it down, it goes down pretty easy. You can cut along the edges of it real easy. Minus is it's pretty thin, so it tears sometimes. I've got a couple of pieces of blue tape over the top of the frisket film right here to patch up some of those tears along the edges. But I like frisket film better than the tape. The tape I'm using is art tape. I've got a roll right here. You can see it's pretty thin, 1/16 of an inch, and I'm working with a 1/8 inch. The art tape I found in the art section with the drafting supplies, I think it was $2 a roll. You know, I've used it before. It works pretty good. It's great for this sort of thing where I'm outlining panels everywhere. Deflector dish, major problem there. I tried frisket film. It was giving me a hard time getting the edges even. I finally gave up, pulled out the masking fluid, and just slathered it all over in there. I'm just hoping I can get it back out later. Not sure of that. We'll find out, but it's pretty covered over pretty heavily with masking fluid. Simply because it's going to take me forever to get that taped over correctly. And the masking fluid's quicker and it does a better job of edging. But that's a quick update where I'm at. I've got a lot of taping to go. You can see I haven't even put anything on this side. I haven't done any frisket film on the bottom side of this yet. I want to put some here, all along these engineering booms, some along here to highlight these details. I want to leave part of it gray, part of it white to give it kind of the Aztec effect. This is good practice because I do have the 1350 Enterprise. I've looked at the Aztecing decals. I think it'd be better if I painted it, and I don't want to go with the refit. I want to go with the refit, not the 1701A. It's a plain old 1701 that was refitted. And the paint job on that sucker's a monster. But I can tell you the frisket film's going to be the way to go on that one. Simply because you can print on the back the shapes you want and then cut it out and then apply it. That is a big advantage of frisket film over tape. Bam! I'm going to quit rambling. Just a quick update so you can see where I'm at. Done with the taping. You can see I've done a pretty extensive tape job. You can't see all the frisket, unfortunately. Frisket is very clear. Frisket is one of the things I want to talk about. It's easier to work with than tape in some regards. What I mean by that is cuts easier than tape, so you don't have to press down as hard on the surface of the model. And since frisket comes in 8.5 by 11 sheets, it comes in very big chunks. So you just cut out a chunk, you know, apart the size you want, lay it down, press it down, and slowly trim around the edges. And you're done with the frisket. Here's my problem with it. It doesn't stay stuck down very well. Any motion across the surface of it and the ends can start fraying and coming up. So this thing is getting paint in the next 10 minutes simply because I can't trust the frisket to stay down completely in spots. I've already had to replace 3 of them and I can already see one spot right now that it wants to come back up on. I keep using the frisket because in these places the details are too soft and I can't see with the tape to cut them. Okay, speaking of details, we're going to start discussing issues. On the front, at the top, I don't know if it's very clear because the lighting isn't all that great in here. Right here, along where my finger is, there is a lot of window details. On this side, half of them are just plain missing. That's an error in the mold. They didn't clean out the mold or something. Second, the tape on the inside along here. And over on this side. That's symmetric with the tape because I made it symmetric. You pull the tape off here and here, the mold details are not symmetric. Another really bad spot on this model. Okay? Underside. Ooh, I'm glad I turned this over. I just noticed there's a spot I didn't tape over here that's taped over here. I had the same problems in different areas up in the front up in here with a few details just being completely missing. I decided I'm going to give up and I'm just going to paint this thing. I'm going to quit trying to fix all these little imperfections in this model. I wouldn't get this thing done by Christmas if I tried. I'm not that good at some of this. This model's a learning experience. Part of this tape job is a learning experience for me. Okay? Now I'm going to stop because I have to fix the tape along here and I'm going to have to be really careful with that because I don't want to disturb the friskets on the top. I'm going to paint it. Next video, and I mean it this time, there'll be paint on this model and it'll be a new video. I'm posting this one tonight so I don't do this anymore. Hope you enjoyed.